It's come from an MSN Money editorial, Wiki Answers, Answers.com, Bankrate.com, and the Smart Student Guide to Financial Aid. Did you know that the average U.S. household today carries $8,000 in credit card debt? That's the average. And the average household also carries an additional $10,000 in consumer debt. Car loans, truck loans, boat loans, repayment plans for electronics or appliances, loans for large toys, ATVs, things like that. The average college student today will accrue around $24,000, and the average mortgage, $172,000. Our culture is up to our eyeballs in debt. Lest you think that that's just a few of those funny people over there who are racking up all this debt and skewing the statistics, USA Today, an article in USA Today says that 78% of baby boomers have mortgage debt. 59% have one for the price of two. But let's look at it another way. Let's say the same couple decided instead of buying a house with a mortgage, they were going to save their money and not take out a mortgage. How long would it take for them to buy their house if they rented it? Now, they did not have to pay for their home repairs. They did not have to pay school taxes, homeowners insurance, or real estate taxes. Let's just say that they were able to save the exact same amount per month that their mortgage would have been, and that would be $821.15. Now let's say they invested that $821.15, and it earned an average of 4% over the next several years. I know in your head right now you're saying, 4%? Tell me where that is and I will invest. But that's a modest interest rate. That is very much within the realm of reality over a long period of time. I know right now it looks very bleak right now, but over a long period of time, investments could earn more, probably will earn more. And if you look at the average of an investment's return, it is universally more than 4%. But just for the sake of argument, let's say 4%. In 13 years and 1/4 of a year, 13 and 1/4 years, they will have saved enough money to buy their house outright with cash. They will have saved $172,000 in just over 13 years. They will be able to buy their house with cash on hand and be debt-free, free and clear of any mortgage or lien on the house. They would own their house completely and without any obligation. Not only that, but if they continued to invest that same amount, that mortgage payment, for the remaining 17 years of the life of what would have been their mortgage at a rate of 4%, at the end of those 30 years, not only would they own their house outright, but they would have saved an additional $397,918.67, roughly. I ran these numbers by Mary Mangus last night, who teaches in her math course a class on mortgages, and she said these numbers are correct. That's just shy of $400,000. That's the power of compound interest over time. That's the power of living without debt. The bank knows it. They use it to pay their employees, their executives, to buy their private jets, to buy their buildings, and support the infrastructure of their multi-billion-dollar corporations. And then they turn around and tell us that for just the low monthly payment of, you too can own your house today. But those low monthly payments add up to significant amounts of money. What's the difference? In the same 30 years, the same 30-year period, two couples spending exactly the same amount of money could either end up, on the one hand, with $123,000 of interest paid to the bank and a thank you card from the CEO, or In addition to owning their house, they would have almost $400,000 in savings and investments. What's the difference? By my calculations, almost $500,000. It's a pretty big difference. It's no wonder that Proverbs 22:7 says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender." This is all mortgage. Mortgage is the tamest kind of debt. We haven't even touched the other debt, consumer debt, car payments, appliances, electronics, big dollar ticket item, big toys. We just haven't even touched those. We haven't even talked about school loans and school debt. Or the worst of all kind of debt, credit card debt. That's a dirty word to me. Credit card debt. If you think that the difference between the interest and the investment of a mortgage is bad, the difference when you're talking about credit cards is obscene. Proverbs 22:7 says, "The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave of the lender." How does this debt enslave us? When we enter into a contract in which we owe someone money, we're basically signing away some of the rights that we have. We're committing to pay on a regular basis payments of a certain amount. If we are late or unable to pay, we face penalties, we face fines, or even possibly forfeiture of the possessions in extreme cases. There was a movie back in 1984 called The Repo Man. Now, I never saw it, but it was based on this principle that if you didn't make your payments, the repo man came and repossessed your belongings. We commit ourselves to a course of action, to paying a certain amount on a regular basis, and thus lock ourselves into a financial bracket or a financial situation that requires us to have a certain amount of income, that we not fall below this level of income. Not so that we can spend it, but just so that we can avoid the repo man. I believe that there's a simple principle here that we could adopt to avoid servitude and the fear of the repo man. It's a very simple principle, and that is this: don't spend it if you don't got it. Don't spend money that you don't have. You want to think of it in a positive way, buy only what we can afford. Buy only what we have the money on hand to purchase. If something is worth it, it's worth saving for. We can find all sorts of good reasons why we should buy something today if we can't afford it. If we don't have the money for it, it's on sale. It's a clearance sale. The price will never be this low again. I could really use it. I really want it. I will enjoy it. My kids will love it. It will be worth money someday. I'm not good at saving. And on and on and on. But most of these credit situations that I looked at have a common thread. Whatever you purchase on credit, if you pay it back, usually ends up costing pretty close to twice what you paid for it, or what the price was originally. Is that thing that we needed so badly, which we can't afford today, worth paying twice of what its value is? If we take out a loan, that's just what we might be doing. And in the meantime, until it's paid off, we're under obligation to continue those payments. Why not wait until we have enough money to buy it outright? You'll cut the costs, you'll save yourself money, headaches, and probably a good deal of stress. Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor. The borrower is slave to the lender. When you take out a debt, you're agreeing to submit yourself to another person or company. You owe them. They have some sway over your decisions. To an extent, you serve them. In Matthew 6:24, Jesus is speaking, and he says, "No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Now please hear me. I'm not saying that anybody who has a debt has rejected God. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying by incurring a debt that you have rejected God, you're not a Christian, you're not a follower. That's not what I'm saying. But think about this man over here. Now this man here, he is backwards on his mortgage. He bought at the height of the mortgage bubble for too much, and now he owes more than his house is worth. Not only that, but he has a car payment and a truck payment, and in 2 years, his eldest child is going to be leaving for college, and he wants to be able to help them. Now, this man is getting by. He's getting by. He's making ends meet. His wife is working. He's working. They're working hard together. But his boss comes to him and says, I need somebody to work on Sundays. I need somebody for a little overtime. It pays time and a half. This man feels like he has no choice. He doesn't have an option. He's got to pay the mortgage. He's got to pay the car payments. They're just barely getting by. He may feel like he has no choice. When we voluntarily choose to enter into debt, we are, in a sense, entering into a period of servitude. We are becoming servant to the lender. Is it any wonder why the rich rule over the poor? Here's a woman over here who feels called to be a missionary. She didn't always feel called to be a missionary. In fact, she wasn't a Christian. She's been a Christian for a little while now. But before she was a Christian, she racked up those credit card debt. And that's been heavy, heavy burden to bear. Thousands and thousands of dollars she's been trying to pay it back. But she ran them up when she was younger and has not been able to pay them off. She has a heart to take the gospel of Jesus Christ to Africa. She wants to go where nobody has gone before, into tribes in the heart of Africa, and take with her the love of Jesus Christ to tell those people. But she can't, because she owes Visa and MasterCard too much to leave. She can't afford it. She is not free to do what she feels God calling her to do until she pays off her debt. If we could just teach our children and ourselves to exercise discipline and buy only what we can afford with the money that we have, we will both, us and our children, be far better off than we were before. I've spoken to a number of people in this church regarding tithing. Now, tithing is a fancy word that simply means 1/10. It's what the Bible says, that God says, is the minimum faithful gift, or minimum faithful offering that He will accept from us. 1/10 of all that we have. The first fruits that we have. He says that He really wants us to be fearlessly generous with our gifts. To not be in fear when we give generously. But because we say, well, God, what does that mean? We don't know what that means. How much is fearlessly generous? What is it? How can we do this? And He said, okay, you need a number? All right, fine. 10%. 10% of all that I give you, you give back to me. You give more than that, that's an offering and a gift. You give less than that, and the Bible says you're robbing from God. That's what the Bible says. 10%, a tithe. As I said, I've spoken with many people with questions or concerns about tithing. They say, I want to tithe, but I don't feel able to tithe. They're afraid that they can't afford it. Well, why is it that they can't afford it? I would venture to argue that most people feel as though they can't afford to tithe because of debt. Mortgage, car payments, credit cards. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. If we're in over our heads, if we're in debt that deeply, we are not free to give. We cannot experience the blessing of fearless generosity. The Bible says it is more blessed to give than to receive. But when we have debt like this, how can we experience the fullness of God's blessing? We're bogged down by weight, by fear. We may have passion for a ministry. We want to give towards it, but we know that the car payment is due. We may want to see a new church building out here in our field. But that mortgage, those credit cards,